So, Lee, how can I get better at not reacting to things?
That's a very human thing to do because, as we talked about before, the limbic system, the reptilian brain, you are born wanting to defend yourself, your body, your mind, and your spirit for your safety. And it's something that you have to practice on. It is emotional intelligence, I think. And in weapons training, we know that when you train to do certain things, holding a weapon in a time of stress, when you don't have time to think about it, you will do what your situational awareness has trained you to do. Well, that really is the same for life in general. So, when we train ourselves to be a certain way, it's usually in reaction to an environmental stimuli, a stimulus, or other people's activity around us, or our own belief system. And reactivity has to do with what? Fear. It has to do with freeze, flight, fight. So, if you have a grease fire in your kitchen, you better react. But I think what we're addressing is, how do you protect yourself when you feel you're being attacked physically, verbally, whatever? Well, if you're a Montanan, everybody's got at least a couple guns, at least. If you have to use it, you do, but it's for defensiveness. It's castle laws. You're allowed to defend yourself, not to be offensive with that. It's just part of our culture. You're taught that. So, to use the emotional weapon towards other people is what people do when they are fearful of losing power, of losing position, of losing something that they have worked for to gain, or for something that they think they should have or is owed to them. And do we all do that a bit? Yeah, we do. It's part of human nature. But there is a population of people that do that as a profession. They're professional emotional terrorists. And they do that to keep you away from them, their personal life, because for whatever reason, they don't want you or anyone in it that they can't control. The reactive nature of humanity is something that will probably always be there, but I see us getting better at it with all the calming videos, the meditation, teaching you to control yourself, to be aware of who you are. That's also your emotional IQ, that's your EQ. And a lot of it has to do with the kind of person you are. If you're the kind of person that's fine around stressful things, it charges you up, you're fine with it. You may do better with that than somebody who's more introverted or opposite. There really isn't, I don't think there's a formula. I think it feeds into how we are raised, what our culture is, our immediate environment, and what our unresolved fears are. One of the interesting areas of reactivity is what is rampant these days, and that is spiritual bullying. Nobody has the right, without due consequence, of going up to someone and demanding that they tell them what they believe about the divine. I need you to repeat these words to prove to me that you're in my religious, spiritual club. It happens all the time. I was at the dump one day and this woman came up and said, "Do you believe this, 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 this?" I'm like, "Who the hell are you?" I looked at her and I said, "Well, I guess." "Well, don't you want to be stronger in that?" I said, "You need to back up now. You need to back up." She kept talking and she backed up, and I drove off thinking, that's insane. You are not charged to go out and bully people with your gospel. Your gospel can be any of the major religions. It can be New Age spirituality. It can be anything. But if you are afraid that God will not love you, if you don't do certain behaviors, say certain prayers, wear certain things, do certain things, you're just wrong. The energy called God doesn't hate anyone or anything or test you. It's not a bigger, better you. So the fact that you might have been bullied by a religion, a spiritual path, to terrify you, that if you don't go out and get a bunch of other people to join the club to be bigger, a bigger club, it's cultic. So to bully people spiritually also happens when we're talking about life work, profession. Your spiritual beliefs will sink into that. It's not always a bad thing. I'm not saying don't believe it. I'll often say to people, how were you raised? Were you raised in a particular belief system, religion, or spirituality? And sometimes people will say, I don't talk about that. I'll say, that's fine. But most of the times they'll say, yeah, this, or this. I say, well, that's interesting because that tells me more about why I'm having issues with the person or they are having issues with me. So, another spiritual bullying thing that happens is if you do something and this other person, let me reverse that. Say they do something to you you find offensive, and you say, don't do that. Don't do that. That's horrible. You just did this, or this. And then they say, I'm sorry. Do you forgive me? Not only did they offend you primarily, but now they want to take away from you your right to process. If you immediately say, oh, yeah, I forgive you, maybe you just want to get rid of them, or maybe it doesn't matter, or maybe you really do, but you'll think about it later on. And you might be setting yourself up in the future to continue to be bullied by people with no boundaries who think they have a right and a need to change you to them. It's a weird thing of human nature. It's really peculiar. And I see it come up a lot in political organizations. Of course, the big three: religion, sex, and politics. I rarely address those things, those are sacred to each person. So when we develop more of a calm demeanor, there are times that you need to say, hey, back off, or no. You have to have a good situational awareness, but you won't do that until you know more of who you are. Why does that person have more rights than you? They don't. They don't. So if you feel more comfortable being weak and ineffectual, not having a backbone, being a rug for people to walk on, and that means your world is safe, good for you. We may need people like that in the world. I don't know. But that to me doesn't work. That's not the kind of person I am. And what I have noticed in my almost 72 years of making one stupid mistake after the next, that people that do that, they are codependent and they are victims, and it fills every spot in their life. It's everywhere. I'll give you an example. One of the food stores I go to, there's a checker that I really avoid because of what she says consistently. She's not a bad person, but, and I talk to everybody, pretty much everybody. Say, how are you today? Well, I'm fine. But I don't have the kind of husband who, because he's a this or that, I won't say what he does. So I'm gonna have to work all my life. I'm thinking, oh, here we go. Why would you say that? So all I say to that is, well, I understand. And then I try to get out as fast as I can. There's nothing to say because the person believes they appear to believe by their behavior that is constantly demonstrated with saying the same poor mouthing that I don't have any ability to take care of myself. I don't really have a backbone. And I'm looking at you and blaming you. And we've all had that happen. And if you allow those type of spiritual bullies to be in your life permanently, you will become more reactive to other people who are like that. Because you don't need that. You can't help that. Many people who have the victim mentality, they have not had to face that, or maybe they did, but they are very reactive themselves. They look all the time for ways to be able to tell you what a victim they are. I'll give you another example. Years ago, I'm at the co-op in Olympia, and I worked there some. I loved the co-op. It was wackadoodle. There were some Asian pears there, and there's a gal there shopping, and I said, "Oh, these are really wonderful." Asian pears is I think it's like a cross between an apple and a pear. She says, "Well, I can't afford those. Those are too expensive. I'd love to taste it, but I've never been able to do that." And I look in her cart, and she's got a bunch of stuff in there that was kind of expensive. So I thought, this person wants to blame me or anybody for her victimhood. So you are a professional victim. Now, how do you react to that? It's going to make you a little sick. But if you are a helpaholic personality, you might say, "Oh, I'm so sorry." Well, you're not, and neither is she, because it just stuffs her deeper into the hole. It stuffs her down there. So your reactivity sometimes can be important, but what I'm learning more about is to be able to be calm, not have to respond at all. You're not obligated to respond to everything. Not everybody wants to. So once again, this is the Zoliart thing of train yourself. Look in the mirror and go, okay, what do I need to dump that I'm dependent on that everybody around me is so used to me doing, they think it's part of me, and it is. But it's useless and it's a ridiculous behavior. It's from my past. You will reach points in your astrology chart where Pluto will come in, where Saturn will come in, and it'll go, oh, you're done with that. And if you keep doing it, it's going to hurt. And it does. We all have that. So by you becoming more aware of your wanting to react and then not, that activity of wanting to react is valuable. And I'll tell you why. Because it's telling you that you are in a space that you don't want to be in. But it's also not telling you to react and blurt out or be physical or go into depression or any negative emotion yourself. Learn to watch yourself and your behavior. When I do that, oh my God, I'm so clear. I had an incident the other day where a gal was trying to push some spiritual garbage on me. And I think for the first time in my life, usually I don't know what to say. I don't want to hurt them. I know I can't change them. But what I did was just look. I looked down and I said, Zoe, what are you feeling? What do you feel? And I said to that person, it must be exhausting to have to present yourself this way all the time. That was me talking to the part of me that might have done that behavior in the past. I wasn't wanting to hurt that person. The person was being, I felt, totally obnoxious, but they're scared. If someone's coming at you, they're afraid. It's fear. You don't know what that person has been through in their past. Or even this morning, you don't know what happened to them and they're reacting. I was laughing. I think I talked in the last podcast or the radio show. I'm driving down the road. This guy crossing the street looks at me and gives me the finger. I thought, whoa, I haven't had that happen in a while. What did I think of doing? Nothing. But I thought, so that's how cops feel. They deal with that all the time. You talk about controlling yourself. Watch law enforcement. It's a school. They are epic. So all we can do is deal with the situation right then, whoever we are with right now. We can deal with it with grace and dignity and learning something and some compassion, or we can go get the hell away from me before I call 911. I have said before to people that were being really aggressive, are you okay? If you need help, I can call law enforcement. We can get you some medical help. Try it. That shuts people up immediately. Immediately. I've never had the obnoxious, aggressive person say, one was at a filling station. Yeah, yeah, I'd really like that help. They're like, oh no. Because chances are the people that are professional irritators like that, they have had issues with law enforcement. They may have warrants. They don't want that because there's a large population that you will react to who are training you and priming you to react because their higher power is law enforcement and the courts. So, as we know, law enforcement deals with 10% of the population 90% of the time. You will encounter some of those people. You will. So, protect yourself at first, back it up to the original event and think, how could I have not engaged that in the first place? Here's an example. I was at this same filling station, and I'm an old Southern lady. I guess I don't know what you call it now. We call them filling stations. You fill your vehicle. So in Montana, I'm at the filling station, and everybody's got trucks or whatever. So I pull in, and I see there's some milling people around on the other side, about 20 yards from me. And I thought, well, that's not good. It's the middle of the day. Why are they here? Why are they not at work? X, Y, and Z. I see a gal get out of her vehicle in front of the store, and she's filling her car actually, and the gas pipe is in her tank. She walks into the store. Two of these guys walked over, opened the door, and grabbed her purse. Before I could yell, hey, they're gone. So I just stood there. I thought, Zoe, this isn't yours. She comes out. And did she take her wallet in? Did she forget her purse? I don't know. She starts yelling. So, and that happened to me. That was God, we had just moved here about 15 years ago. Ever since then, if I pull in my truck to the filling station and the minute I pull in, I lock all the doors except the one I'm getting out of to fill my vehicle. And the reason I do that is stuff happens so fast. These people that do this are very good at it. They're better at that than we are of protecting ourselves if we haven't protected ourselves. But you don't want to have to react if you protect yourself at first. Females are prey animals. When you walk out of Walmart or any place with your cart, are you on your phone? Do you just walk straight towards your vehicle or do you stop for a minute coming out the door and look around you? Are you aware if anybody's been following you in the store? I've had that happen. Turned around and yelled, Hey, they didn't like that because they don't want to be noticed. I started walking towards them aggressively. And I'm short, but I can do a mean face. I mean, if I have to, it might be more comical than anything, but it worked. My heart rate was up. I thought, "Ah." So when you walk out of a store, especially females, most, my heart is open to these women with these little children, and they're alone. The kids are like, "Mom, mom, mom," jumping up and down. You got a little baby in the cart, and there's one jumping up and down because he wanted Spider-Man, he didn't get it. You're distracted. So, in order to protect yourself there, you have to be able to ignore the external stimuli and calm yourself at least for 10 seconds. Stop, take a breath, look around you. Do you see people sitting in vehicles? Do you see people wandering around the parking lot? And did you park so far away that if you needed help, you couldn't get it? Now, sometimes you have to, but this is just your situational awareness. So, to avoid having to react, learn to respond to your smarts, your situational awareness. I don't know what the laws are in Canada or in the United States, but almost every gal I know, well, everybody's armed, but even in Olympia, they carried little things of bear spray. Now, bear spray was actually invented in the 80s by a graduate at the University of Montana. I don't know if she was a bear researcher, but she developed that. And then, of course, it took off. Now there's riot spray that's even stronger. I have been sprayed with it. Let me tell you, it's a come to Jesus moment. It's a come to Jesus. So get some training in something. Don't be afraid of protecting yourself that you're going to hurt somebody's feelings. You want to hurt their feelings because they don't feel for you. So that's a whole training thing. I won't get into that. That's something that my husband does. That's one of his, he trained SWAT teams. That was his thing. I've learned a lot. But I can be very neurotic. I can be panicky. I can be prepper-ish. I can get into these states of mind where I trigger myself going, what are you doing? And it's usually, I'm bored. That's usually what I'm doing. Oh, not much going on today. Let's see what kind of crisis I can think about. What an idiot. So I've had to stop that. I've had to stop that. So you don't want to have to react. You want to be able to respond. You want to be able to stay as calm as possible in every situation. Well, good luck with that. That's really hard, but those are my thoughts.